this. So you'll get a video of this later. So, because there's going to be a lot of information, and I am going to share my screen. And let me know when you see your name. Hello?
Yeah, I don't see anything.
You don't see anything? Let's see what's going on here.
Okay, I see it now.
How about now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so you had asked me to do a chart comparison, compatibility analysis for you and your husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like to start off with a little bit about what Vata is. Vata just means 8 characters. And there are four pillars in a chart that have to do with the year, the month, the day, and the time of your birth. There are 2 rows, one called the stem, one called the branch, and they all have different yin and yang polarities and different 5-element designations. And once we understand how those elements will be kind of coded into your life, then we see how you will react with the elements of space and time. Okay? So Vata is part of the studying of the 3 essentials. Dr. Tan called it the 3 essentials, and it's about people, timing, and environment, or heaven, human, and earth. The heaven component is Vata, the timing. The human component would be the medicine, so acupuncture, herbs, and all the things we do for people. And the earth part would be feng shui. That's your environment, right? So when you take into account what Vata does for you, it can just tell you the elements that were present at the time of your birth. They will interact through time of the calendar, but they will also interact with where you are, geographically, or how your home is laid out, or the type of people you're around, or the food you eat, the treatments you get, etc. Okay?
Okay.
So it's an important part of your makeup, but it's not everything in life. Okay? It probably accounts for about like 1/3 or even 1/6 of what's going to happen in your life. Okay? But understanding this, we can understand how to move you through time or help make decisions that are better for you. Because Vata has very little to do with desires, but if your desires don't line up with your chart, then you will likely feel miserable. It's about what has happened, what is happening, and what will happen in your life in accordance with nature. And it's not about really improving your soul, but it's about making your life smoother and more harmony with nature. Okay, so when we do a compatibility analysis, we're looking at how different parts of your charts are going to be interacting in different aspects of your life. Okay, so it can tell us, how you guys will interact with each other's families, or how you will view each other in home, or what you're like when you're hanging out with people, your friends or social circle. Or it can tell us a little bit about even aspects of fertility, okay, and why things may be lining up, or when they'll be more likely to line up. Mm-hmm. All right. You have any questions so far?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So I don't think I need to explain this to you, but I do consultations for people who don't know yin and yang. So just to remember that yin and yang play a big aspect in this. The 5 elements are a big part of this. And I do a lot of the presentation with the Chinese, my fun lightsaber, with the Chinese characters. Okay, so I try to color code them as much as possible. I don't know if you can read Chinese characters. It's just easier than writing out the English. And then you'll remember the generating cycle and the controlling cycle, okay? So do you remember all these? I hope. Okay. So they're gonna be important when we're discussing how these elements are playing out, okay? So these are your two charts. You can see yours. This is the information you gave me. Just double check that you were born September 14th, 1981, sometime between 7 and 9 p.m. Okay. And then this is Derek's information, born March 1st, 1978, 6:56 p.m. in New Orleans. Okay. So I am going to go over your chart a little bit. I'm not going to go in depth into your individual charts. I'll just kind of gloss over relevant information for how your charts interact with each other. But if you want more specific information, just ask me, okay? So these are the designations in Chinese. This is the year you were born. A lot of people usually know the animal. This character, Yo, is the rooster. So you were born in the year of the rooster. You were born in the year of the metal rooster. You know what? Hold on just a second, because I realized I need to record on here as well. Just for backup. Okay, so you were born in the year of the metal rooster, on a fire rooster month, on a wood goat day, at a fire dog hour. Okay. And as we go through this, if something's really not resonating, then it is possible I didn't calculate the right chart for you just based on the hour. And so we can adjust that. And I already have notes typed up. But I do believe that this is more like some of the questions that I asked, this lines up more with what you've said. Okay. So when you put all of these together, we're looking at how the elements manifest, okay? The first spot we're going to look at is this spot in the day pillar, which is called the day master, or the Yuan. And yours is yin wood, okay? So if you look at this star down at the bottom, I have all the elements put together in order of the generating cycle. And so you can see color coded out, you have a predominance of certain elements and missing other elements, right? So you have wood here on top, that's you're the yin wood. And then this third line is not equal to the upper two lines. These are called minor hidden stems, okay? So they're not as strong as if it was in the first two lines, okay? So if you're looking at your star, can you tell me which element you think you have the most of?
Fire.
Yes. So we would say you're more of a fire constitution. You're a yin wood, that's your day master, which just means that is the element at which all the other elements pivot around, okay? But what element is most at play in you is fire, okay? And so if we're talking about what a fire constitution would look like, you actually have a predominance of yin fire. And I will say that yang fire is more like the sun, where yin fire is more like a candle. So people that are yang fire are really loud, boisterous, gregarious outwardly. They're really outgoing. Like a classic yang fire person would be Dolly Parton, right? Okay. A yin fire person is a little bit more discreet, a little more meticulous and subtle, but once you get to know them, they really warm up. Okay. And there's a lot more we can glean from that. And this will have some significance elsewhere too, and we'll go into that. Okay, so this is just a brief overview of how the elements are laid out in your chart. We can see you're missing one element completely in your chart, the water element.
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody's missing an element, it can mean that they might be a little more deficient in that element. And we're going to see, I'm going to show you in the coming slide how the elements, you can be weak or strong in your element, and then we're always looking for balance, right? So there are going to be some elements that you want to enhance and some that you might not find as useful or even harmful, but we're always looking for balance, so we never want an element completely void, okay? Whether, even if it is a quote unquote harmful element. Mm-hmm. So you may have noticed this in your own life. You might gravitate toward water aspects, or you might fill your environment or find people who have water because they help balance you out. You might notice deficiencies in like water symptoms, like maybe you more easily have an achy back, or maybe you can have maybe sometimes like lower libido, or problems with like blood deficiency. Mm-hmm. Does any of this sound right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So when we're looking at, this is useful information in the chart because we know that you don't innately have water. So as a practitioner, I would look at this and go, okay, she needs water. Whether I pick water points, water meridians, herbs that are going to enhance that element in your body for treatment, okay? Or even feng shui, you bring in more water into your environment, okay? So that's the starting point with your chart. You'll see some of these designations, they're called interactions in your own pillars, and I'm gonna go into that later about what these mean, okay? Mm-hmm. So moving on to Derek's chart, his day master is yang water, okay? So already you did good, you got some water from him. He doesn't have a ton of it though, you can see, okay? He actually, and I will go into the interaction of his chart, all of these, I'll define them right now. He was born in the year of the horse, in a earth horse year. He was born on a wood tiger month, on a water dog day, at a metal dog hour. And when you actually have the characters of horse, tiger, and dog all together, they create a special interaction called a san he. And what that means is that the horse on the Chinese compass represents the south, or the fire element. And so we say that this is the time of summer, okay? The fire season. The tiger is the start of that season, and the dog is the end of that season. So if we think about this in terms of months, this is February, the tiger. June is horse, and October is fire. So we say that in February, you will see the very first starts of summer. And like in Southern California, you can really see this because sometimes even in February, we have really warm days that kind of feel like summer, right? But we wouldn't say it is summer. Mm-hmm. You just start to feel the beginnings of it. In June, we have the solstice, that's the height of summer. And then all the way until October, we still have days that are like summer. I mean, even today, right? And yesterday. Mm-hmm. Although we're not in the dog month yet. It starts in a few days. The months don't start on like October 1st. They start on the solar Chinese calendar, or lunar, sorry, the lunar one for the months, which is usually the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th of the month, okay? So anyway, for him, all of these interact and they change their element, except for this space here. This space in the month is called the Yue Ling, and it has a special place in charts, but the Yue Ling never changes. And how you can remember that is Dr. Han's name is Yue Ling,
Uh-huh.
And so we say, you know, like Yueling never changes, she never changes. And if you get to know her, you'll understand that's very accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, these three, when they get together, they can actually change all to fire if there is a fire trigger. He doesn't have any fire on top. So you can see here in this top line in the star, there's no red on top. So he doesn't have any fire innately. But one thing that is special about the horse, it is a cardinal branch, and normally they are just one element. So rooster, like you, also is a cardinal branch, and it's just metal. You see these little designations down here? These are called the hidden stems. This tells you this is yin metal. This goat has yin fire, but it also has yin earth and yin wood, right? So it has three. So does this dog over here. So normally cardinal branches, the horse, the rooster, the rabbit, and the rat only have one hidden stem or one element, but the horse is special. It has two. So it actually has fire and then a little bit of earth. So when these get together and transform to an element, if there's a fire trigger, they'll all turn to a fire nature. But if there's no fire, they'll take earth instead. And he does have earth. So this is the yang earth year. He has this earth trigger. So they all turn to earth. Okay. But if fire comes into the calendar for him, they will all change to fire. So that will change his chart often. It can change it for a day, it can change it for an hour, it can change it for a month, a year, it can change it for a decade. So I said, you guys are special because he has a chart that changes a lot, and not just in this way. So we'll get more into it.
What does it mean when fire comes in? Like what kind of fire would come into his life?
So in the calendar, so every day we can see a chart like this. Okay. So for example, I will tell you what the Batsa chart is for right now. And I will, how do I do this? I don't think I can edit. No. Okay. Oops, I messed up. What? Where did you go? I'll just tell you, and while I figure out what's going on here, we're in a yang rat year, on a red yin rooster month, on a yang dragon day, at a yang horse hour. That's the time right now. So any baby born at this moment will have this chart in where we are. Okay. I'm trying to figure out what just happened with your presentation. So sorry about that. So if any fires, like say it was a fire rat year, then that fire would serve as a trigger to change all of his polarity from earth to fire. So he would have more fire in his chart.
Okay.
Okay. Give me a second to figure out what I just did. Okay. I don't know why it added somebody's console. Does that make sense? Okay. So what are we? Okay. So you can see he's this water person, right? That's his day master, but he doesn't have a lot of it. Okay. Can you see, because of that interaction of the earth, he has a ton of earth. So we would say he's an earth constitution. But what I'm trying to show you is that this earth here, here, and here can all change to fire. So right now he has a lot of earth in his chart, and we would say he has an earth constitution. And a young earth constitution, which is like I like to use pictures. Young earth would be like a mountain. Like people that are young earth are really steady, reliable, they're supportive, they're strong and slow in decisions, they're not easily moved, but they're very like self-sufficient. They can also be a little like stubborn or indecisive. Okay, there's a lot of different components to that. But if fire comes in, right, it can change. It can either be yin fire or yang fire, and then he would take on more of that personality, or that aspect of his personality would manifest more, or even health-wise. So young earth we think of as like the stomach channel, right? So depending on how earth is benefiting him, whether it's a harmful or a useful element in his chart, he could maybe have a very good digestion and eat anything he wants to, and always be strong there, or he can have a really weak digestion and have a lot of stomach problems, right? And then the same goes with the fire. If he has the yin fire come in as a trigger, well, he'll have more of a personality like yours, right? Or if he has a yang fire come in, that constitution will be shifted a little more toward that. So you might notice this about him, where he might change a little bit over time. Just different things come out over, and it could be for a day, he just acts a certain way, or he has a problem, or it could be for a year. It seems like, different aspects of his personality are shining through, or he's complaining of different health problems, or he is doing better at work. Maybe he's making more money, or maybe he's getting a promotion, right? And we'll get into why I would say that in the next slide. Okay. So each of these, okay, sorry, not this slide. I'm going to talk about the strength of the elements first. So first we want to establish whether you are strong or weak in your chart. Okay. So we look at the different positions. Again, let's look at yours. You're a yin wood person. So what is going to make yin wood strong? In the generating cycle, it's going to be water, right? Generates wood, and then wood would create more wood. So we want to see, do you have water and wood in certain positions to help support you? So the first place we look is the Yueling. The Yueling is metal. It does not support your wood. Then we look at the rest of the lower branches. You have the metal, a little more fire, and this earth, metal, and fire, which none of these elements support wood. So now you have two aspects that are weakening your chart. We look at the top line, and again, metal, fire, and fire, that's not supporting you. We say you have a weak chart, but not just a weak chart, you have an extremely weak chart. Okay, so when we see that, if you remember the yin yang, the Tai Chi Chuan symbol, when you have, let me just add that for, okay. When you have yin, my pointer, extremely weak, right? It has to transform to yang. So you're not just weak like right here, where we would want to add more yin to balance you, you're so weak, it would be so difficult to add to it. We might as well just weaken you so you can transform to yang. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're always looking for dynamic balance, right? The yin yang tells us in life there is never a static balance. There's always moving parts. And that's like one of the beautiful things about Batsa is that time is always shifting. So you can't say that this is always going to be good for you because your life is always changing. Okay, even if your chart doesn't change, I mean, some people's charts do change with time. Even if your chart doesn't change with time, it's going to interact with time. Okay, so you have an extremely weak chart. So we actually just want to weaken it. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll look at those elements that will weaken wood instead of looking to the elements that strengthen it. Okay, so we say that the useful elements or the yang xing are fire, huo, earth, tu, and metal, jin, right? So those are the elements in life we want to enhance for you. And you already have fire, which is great. So whenever your constitution is beneficial, that makes your life a bit easier, okay? You have a bit of earth and you have a bit of metal. So it's really nice for you. Even though water and wood are considered the harmful elements, you still don't want them to be too deficient, okay? So that's why I said, even though you're void of water and it's in this classification, it's harmful, you never want to be completely empty. But we don't want to have too much water to overpower or control this good fire aspect that you have that's beneficial to you. Okay. If we look at Derek's chart, he has yang water as his day master. So we want to see, is his chart weak or strong in water? So again, we look at the Yue Ling first, and this tiger has a wood designation primarily. So this wood is weakening, right? And then remember I said this can be earth or fire depending on the trigger. Well, earth and fire both weaken water, right? So we say that he's weak here. So he has two weakening elements. Then he has this earth, wood, and metal. Okay, so metal helps him, but these two are weakening. So 2 out of 3 weak. So we say he has an extremely weak chart as well. But he has this little bit of metal here, which is designated here. So if there's a metal branch that ever comes into his life through the calendar and it roots this metal, his chart flips. So right now he's a Jad Sangan. He is, Jad means like changing, I think. But he's here because he's yang water, right? When he is in the Sangha phase, that means there's nothing here to root this metal. We just want to weaken him. But if the metal's ever rooted, he goes back to a classically weak body, young water person. We call that Shen Ro. And what that means is his chart can flip with the calendar, okay? And that will change these designations. So when he's in a Jatsanga state, the useful elements for him are going to be wood, mu, huo, fire, and tu, earth. If he's in a Shenro state, his useful elements are going to be tu, earth, jin, metal, and shui, water, right? So you can see these two lines. Sometimes his useful elements are here, and sometimes his useful elements are here. And why are we including earth when he's Shenro? Well, because when metal is rooted, it acts as a gate. So the earth no longer controls the water. It tonifies the metal, which can tonify the water. Does that make sense?
Kind of. I mean, I get the element stuff, but I'm trying to follow along on how this pertains to us.
Okay, I know this is all background because we're gonna get to.
Yeah, I'm still just following along.
Okay, yeah, because when we have to understand all of this stuff before we can get into what this means for you guys. So I know this, you're like, okay, I don't care about elements, like give me the good stuff, right? But I also want you to have this information because if you come across a calendar, then you can refer to it yourself. I mean, you can call me and ask me every time about a date, but this will just give you a better understanding too. Okay. So we also have what's called a life pillar sequence through the Dayun. You guys entered, not everyone enters it at the same time. You can start one anytime between the ages of 0 and 10. Like some people will start a Dayun cycle at age 2 or age 4 or age 5. You both happened to start a Dayun cycle last year, 2019. Okay, so that adds a 5th pillar to your chart to interact with all of these places in your chart. So the pillar you're in is a metal ox, and he is an earth goat. Okay, so I'm just going to show you briefly. That adds a little bit of metal to your chart, a little bit of earth. For him, it adds a lot of earth. Okay.
What is the Dayun cycle again?
This is a 10-year pillar.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So for 10 years, starting on 2019, you have these added components to your chart, influencing your chart.
So for the next 10 years.
For the next 10 years. Yep. Okay. And so he has one too. Yours both just happen to start the same year. Okay. Maybe like a little bit months apart, but generally 2019. Okay. They didn't affect his being all earth. It didn't affect whether he's still in a Sangha state until that metal gets rooted. Okay. So from starting in 2019, the only time metal can get rooted is if it's a metal year, branch year, which would be a rooster or a monkey year, or if it's a rooster monkey month, etc. Okay. So then we look at these spirits, and I won't go into all of them. I'll just briefly go into what they are because you're ready to like get into the nitty gritty. So the first thing you had mentioned is you guys have been trying to conceive. And so we're looking at fertility. So just briefly, again, you being yin wood, this is you. This is fire is what you create. Earth is what you control. Metal is what controls you. Water is what nurtures you, right? That's the generating and control cycle. So women create their children, okay? This is the mother-son relationship, right? So children for you are designated by fire. This is also your creativity. This is also your anything you produce. So that could be work for you as well in some aspect, okay? You control your money. This is money. Responsibility controls you, and your reputation nourishes you, or education or spirituality. These also have other designations, but I'm just going to keep it simple at this point. If we're talking about family dynamics, this is you. This would also be your brothers and sisters. These are your children. This is your father. This is your male spouse, and this is your mother. Okay? Sorry, in ancient China, the man controls the woman. Okay? For men, it's a little bit different. This is still him. This is his production, but this is not his children like it is for women. This is just work and creativity. This is money and finances, but remember I said that the men control the women, so this would be his spouse, his female spouse. Children control their fathers, so this is his children, and then this is his mother. Okay, but this is also, again, these are things that nourish, so education, spirituality, these are responsibilities. Again, we said this is finances or wealth, and then this is production, and then this is the self, okay, or peers. Okay, so if we look at individually, what are the elements that are going to tie into your fertility? For you, it's going to be fire. For him, it's going to be earth. Okay, so when we look at your charts, we see you have a ton of fire and he has a ton of earth. Like, things should be good and easy for you guys. You guys should both be pretty healthy. These are both yang xing. They're both useful elements, so they're not working against you. So what's going on, right? Why, you guys said it's been 5 years. Why, what's making it difficult? Okay, so I'm going to tell you right now. Remember we said that these pillars represent the hour, month, day, year?
Mm-hmm.
They can also represent aspects of our life. So we start with the year. The year is sometimes called the community or the ancestors pillar. It's the place from the outmost of where we come from, okay? The month can be like your family, your parents, your neighborhood. The day pillar would be more inside the home. This would be you, yourself and your spouse, friends, peers, colleagues. The hour is outside the home. So this is your children. This could be how you interact with society. This is your career, okay? So if we are looking at fertility and we're looking at compatibility between people, the first place I want to look, or the first couple places, I want to look at this hour pillar and I want to look at this day pillar. And I want to look at it intrinsically. So what's going on in your own chart, in his own chart. And then I want to look at, I want to compare the pillars. So I would compare your day pillar to his day pillar, your hour pillar to his hour pillar, okay? And then because we're looking at the timing, I want to look at what's going on with the decades right now. So the first thing we see is, I'm going to look at your chart first. You see this little arrow here?
Mm-hmm.
This dog and this goat have a special interaction, and it's called a xing, or that translates to a punishment. And it sounds really dramatic. But what it means is that it's like, this one in particular is called a bully xing, and it means that something is overasserting itself on someone else, okay? And so for your chart, it can mean that the hour pillar representing children, your career, outside the home, these can also represent different ages in life, but you're not there yet, so I'm not going to go there. What it can mean is that this dog, there's a direction component to it. This dog will overassert on this goat. And this goat has a special designation. It's called the spouse palace. Okay, so what a spouse palace means, this is representative of the person you choose, but more so the idea of the person you're choosing. Like, this is what you will gravitate towards, or this is the kind of role you'll look for someone as a spouse to fill in your life, okay? And you look for someone that is going to have maybe these goat-like tendencies, but also fill these roles of the shushan. Those are the spirits that we talked about and the designations of the elements. So they're going to have this elemental, this goat has a lot of fire. So you would look for somebody that has quite a bit of fire, that yin fire. And that yin fire is going to be like the creativity, okay? You probably look for someone that you can warm up to and that you can also nurture, take care of. You probably want to take care of this person. Maybe you like to cook for this person. You guys like cooking?
No.
No? Okay. Well, it could just also be
But I get what you're saying, because I am like motherly type.
Okay. Yeah. So, and then you also look for this person to fulfill, be someone like you, like a peer, and also look for someone who is going to take care of you financially. Okay. And you probably like this person to be like creative. Okay. So that's all, those things are good for you. Okay. You look for someone who actually is good for you. So not everyone does. So that's good. But what this Xing can mean is that it can mean that these aspects of your life outside of the home can overassert on your spouse. So what that can look like is you might tend to focus too much on your work, or focus too much on money, or focus too much on what you're making for yourself. And that will get in the way of this connection. Okay. And the elements are still there and available for you, but it's when you see the Xing, it means that it can just be a little bit harder to access those things. Okay. And that's just within you. Now, you entered this ox pillar. And again, ox would have this earth component for you and bringing you in more money. But the ox also has a bully Xing with the dog and the goat. And it also has a clash with the goat. So this is, I would like to say, Dr. Tan always stressed there's no good, bad, right, or wrong. Okay. We just have to look at how these are playing out. Because what I can see is, and I look at your chart, I say, there's so much fertility here, okay? There's so much children here. So what's going on? Why isn't it happening easily, right? Well, even just for you, there's quite a bit of conflict. And the conflict is actually probably more about money and wealth and things that you accumulate. But there's this component of work, because especially being a business owner, this is the work you produce, but work also is a sense of responsibility. And this Qisha here represents the type of responsibility you take on for yourself. So this is very like entrepreneurial. And you can see that coming up here. Okay. It actually also comes up in this ox. So I would say that what's going on for you in timing wise is that for you, just for you, this sense of work is overasserting itself in a cyclical nature. Okay. It's hard to access it's hard to enjoy like all the good elements and good spirits that are coming in right now. Okay. So what can we do about that? Well, then we just don't look within just ourselves. We have to look outside ourselves, right? So fire is still beneficial for you and for your fertility. So what I would say is you just need to bring in more fire from a medical perspective and a feng shui perspective. You can't rely on your own chart, your own like DNA, your own intrinsic qualities, okay? Now, because they're just going to be tied up in conflict. But, you know, from conflict, we find that, like I've heard in like how the Chinese people would interpret these is that they really value conflict, because from conflict, we can be more creative, right? Find more solutions. Okay. So I wouldn't necessarily look down on this and be like, oh my gosh, you know, this makes my life so hard. I mean, it can, but you know, you mentioned that you have been trying to conceive for so long, and that's what's pushed you to become more interested in fertility as a treatment, right?
Mhm.
And so I'm guessing you've learned a lot, and just from your WhatsApp posts and your success in the clinic, this has pushed you and driven you to get a lot of benefit out of it, because these are still beneficial elements and spirits for you,
Mhm.
right? It's just, I would say that from this perspective, I can see why this has been a bit more challenging for you, okay? Now, when we look at his chart, you can see he has the same characters. He has that dog, and in his Dayun, he has the goat, okay? So he's having the same interactions right now as you. He doesn't have it as much intrinsically as you do, but the timing for him, he has this dog overserting on the goat, okay? And then if we look in comparison, this goat with this dog in your day is going to have a bit of a sheen, and this ox and his goat is going to have a sheen and a clash. So you guys are having difficulty because it's a cycle of over assertion with each other right now. And I would say in general, it's probably because you also mentioned you wanted him to start his own business, right? It's about the sense of responsibility, and then because for Earth for him is about children, it's about making children, right? It's like these are all good things for you both, but there is just this energetic like getting in the way of making it easy for you guys, right? So the charts tell me you have to look outside yourselves for help, and that could be through medicine or through feng shui, because it's not that there's nothing you can do to transform this. It just is what it is. And I can tell you like how to make the most of it, how to like make it more beneficial for you. But if you're looking to enhance your fertility, you have to look outside of your own charts for like in the calendar, right? So for him to enhance fertility, both of you share always, no matter whether he's Jatsonga or Shenro, Earth is always beneficial for him. Earth is beneficial for you. Fire is beneficial for you. Fire is sometimes beneficial for him. Okay, but fire being your fertility and earth being his fertility, this makes it actually so easy. You guys are really lined up in a really easy way. So you want to enhance fire and earth in the timing, in your bodies, and in your environment. So if we look at timing, the best month for you to conceive in a year in general is going to be June. It's just going to be the easiest. You also have this designation of this horse being your Tao Hua, which is the peach blossom, which makes it it's a branch that is always going to enhance it's going to be more attractive to you, and it's going to enhance things for you. And then that's wonderful for you because the horse is a fire element, which has to do with your creativity and fertility. So like June is just like a golden month for you in that way. For him, it also is good because he needs fire and earth, and the horse has fire and earth in its quality of elements. Okay, so June for both of you is the time to try for babies. Okay, midday around noon is the horse hour between 11 and 1, and that is going to be the best time for fertility. If you are thinking like, okay, when we're going to time intercourse, that would be the best time of day. Okay, when he's in this Sangha state is going to be the easiest for you both to conceive, because you're going to be more lined up elementally. But it's not impossible when he's in Shenro. It's just easier at this state. Okay, so it's not basically like when it's not a monkey or rooster year, month. Like the autumn is not an easy time for you guys. Okay. And then if we talk about feng shui, you guys want to have more earth element in your bedroom. So I listed some things that bring in the earth that you can easily put into your bedroom. You guys want to stay away from metal and water in the bedroom. Those are going, so metal and water element in the bedroom would be like metal furniture, mirrors, anything that's circular. Let me see. Like you don't want too much blues or whites or silvers in your bedroom. I would switch more to like earth tones or even some red. I mean, you don't want too much red in the bedroom because, you know, too much fire is just going to be too stimulating. Then you can't sleep. Okay. But even some wood would be good for you guys. That would be a little more beneficial, but earth is going to be better.
So
Okay?
would it make a difference if, let's say, we have a lot of wood in our bedroom, but they're painted white?
It's not ideal, but you know, furniture is expensive, so I wouldn't say like chuck your furniture. I would just say put maybe like, what color are your walls?
White.
Okay, so paint your walls like maybe like a beige or like a cream, something with a little more earth tone.
Okay, I mean, it's not completely white. It is kind of like a crude off white, like cream white.
Okay. If it has some earth tone to it, that's way better for you and warmer because of the fire. Like I would not go with anything with cool tones
So
for you
should I
guys.
instead put plants in my room?
Plants are good. Yeah. Candles are great for you guys. Especially like if they come in like ceramic jars, because ceramic is earth blown with fire, right? Crystals bring in the earth element. Clay pottery, like if you just wanted to put figurines, those kinds of things. The shape of earth is square, so if you had like pictures of squares, like if you had like abstract and there was like more of the shape of square involved or like rectangular. Wood is all about growth too, so wood is not bad in that sense. Wood is more vertical lines and things coming up, but the water shape is anything that doesn't have a clear shape, like kind of an abstract shape, and the circles are the metal shape, so you want to stay away from those. Okay. And if you have like some people have those like metal frame beds, I would be like, no, not for you guys. Okay. Also, if you just think of the seasons of metal and water, they're later, they're about harvest, they're about slowing and stopping, and you guys are like, you want to rev up the engine. Like, you guys want to make things happen, right? So even just in the sense of the way that wood and fire are very dynamic elements, you want that. The earth is all about home and stability too, and you guys are trying to create more of a home together, like with children, right? So those things I would say would be better in your bedroom. Okay. Just because that's usually generally the more romantic area of the house. I mean, but if there's another area where you guys are planning on making children, then take that stuff there.
Okay. Because actually lately he's been very into woodwork. Is that like bringing in too much earth element?
No, woodwork is great. Actually, woodwork makes sense because wood is all about his production. So that makes sense for him, and it's good for him. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna go look at the calendar. I have it in a few slides. I'm pretty sure he's Sangha right now, so that's good. That's fine. That's gonna enhance his creativity. He really needs to root fire. That's why I forgot. That's why he needs fire, because that wood can control his earth, and we don't want that. So he needs fire so that creates a gate of wood tonifying earth. So he needs to have more fire around him. Like you bring fire for him, so that's good, but he can definitely take more of it. Okay. Yeah, you guys really like balance each other out really well. When I was doing your charts, I was like, wow, you guys are like a really happy couple together. Like I would think like just you two together, you guys have a very good relationship and really balanced. It's just, I can definitely see this bullying that's happening in your charts is, I would say, the number one reason why it's been difficult for you guys to conceive, because otherwise you both should be fairly fertile. Have you guys done like testing or anything like that?
Yeah, so we did testing, and we are both healthy. And then we did 2 rounds of IUI last year.
And what was that? What was the outcome there?
So the doctor said that my eggs and his sperm, everything, we were actually really healthy. I actually was able to fertilize more eggs than the doctor thought I would be able to.
Yeah.
But still nothing happened.
Right. Yeah. And it's just this interaction is just very like, it just makes things kind of difficult, because otherwise you guys are really healthy. Like you guys are really fertile people.
So basically you're saying that to pull back on trying to be so career oriented. I mean, I guess you're saying that I can't really depend on depend on our own DNA or our own, like we can't really change it, right? We have to look outside.
You can't change the timing. I'm not saying that your DNA won't work well together. I'm just saying that there is a over assertion where it can be like intrinsically it just makes it more difficult. Okay, so like sometimes I see charts where there's like you don't have anything, like say the water was the fertile element for you, right? And you have none of it, and I would say, okay, you just need more water, right? And then this is how you would do it, right? But that's not your problem here. You're fertile. You're totally fertile. He's totally fertile. So why isn't it easily work? Like, why isn't it just like, okay, we just have sex and get pregnant if we're so fertile and so healthy, right? Well, it's because of this interaction. So how do we make this interaction work for us and kind of get it off of our backs a little bit? Is I would say that you make this bullying more about work and less about children. I think that the focus of it being on children is what makes it hard for you to have children. Does that make sense? Like that, how these elements are playing out in your life, how you're interacting as spouses, how you're interacting outside and trying to build a family with children. Because the children, Shirshen, the spirits from the fire for you and the earth for him. Remember I said there's all this earth here? Because they are caught up in this bullying, that's what's making it difficult for you to conceive. But remember, look at all these spirits here. You have with the goat, you have with the dog. There's actually a few more with the ox, but I generally don't list them with the pillars because they're just not as important. They're all in play, but so is, if you remember, this is also work for you. This isn't just about children. Fire isn't just about children for you. It's also about work. This metal is all about work for you. It's all about your responsibilities. Earth is all about your income, right? Earth for him is also work and children, and the wood and fire is also can be about work, right? Mm-hmm. So, but because this earth here, the way it's triggered in his chart is definitely about children. That's why I say bring the fire in so you can transform it. Now the punishment for him or the over assertion is not about kids at all. It's about money. Okay? For you bring in more fire because that helps you, and then you manifest this as a shing that's going to be about work or responsibility. So it's almost like you need to try in a certain way. You need to bring in influences that are going to let these play out on a bigger stage. Okay, so for example, we are in a rat year, and there's a type of punishment with rat that's called a betrayal punishment. And that happens when a rabbit and a rat interact. So if anybody has a rabbit in their chart, they can freak out and say, oh my gosh, it's a rat year now, and I'm going to be betrayed. Okay, no, there's betrayal energy, but that doesn't mean you're going to be betrayed. You might be the betrayer, right? You have to, you see that energy coming, and you have to make use of it. You have to make it manifest in a certain way. So for example, Dr. Han tells this story of, I think it was 2018. The chart, the calendars basically was like, you're going to lose a lot of money. Like it was just losing money all year, right? Well, instead of just sitting there and like crying and going, oh my God, I'm going to lose money, right? She's like, how am I going to lose money? Well, if you buy a bunch of houses, you've lost a ton of money, right? But you've gained an investment. And so then the next time that she saw in her chart where money was going to be coming in, she sold all the houses, right? So you can't get rid of this bully punishment, but why not? I think the focus for you guys has been trying to conceive and putting so much energy into that. But actually, if you shift and make this bully about work, right?
So then that means this year is actually a better year for us because that has been the shift.
It should be, but I'm gonna show you some things about why it's gonna be harder just for the next couple months. June is definitely going to be easier for you. I haven't gone into these things. These things are called Kong Wong, and it means void. It means the snake for you, anything elementally or spirit-wise that would come along with the snake is empty, okay? For him, it's rat. So we're in a rat year. That makes it kind of difficult for him to access this energy of the rat. Now, the rat would, it doesn't necessarily tie into his fertility, but the rat is like himself. And it's like about losing assets. Okay. Now, the rat is still a water element. So even though for him in placement, earth is about fertility and fire is about fertility, that's placement, but we still think water is the sexual organs. Right? So another aspect of why it might be difficult for you guys is, and generally people do this without even realizing, is you've probably enhanced the water element in yourself anyway to help because you don't have it here. And he's probably done that in some way too. But what I would say is because it's a Kong Wong year for him, he's missing out on this water being rooted. And that can affect his like libido, his sexual health, right? The quality, the quantity, the morphology, all of those things. It's not necessarily harder, but it can be harder. Okay. So I would say that when I looked at it, I still think June of next year is going to be better for you guys. But it's
According to this chart, is it June of every year or is it just next year?
June of every year.
Okay.
But June of next year is going to be better too because we won't be in a rat year anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It will be an ox year, which does, again, kind of bring some of this energy in. It's not terrible. The tiger will be the following year, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be good for you guys as well. That also, the tiger brings in a lot of hidden elements for you that are useful for both of you. So 2022 is even better, but I mean, I don't know how long you guys want to wait. So I'm just I like to just look at the next 6 months when I do a consult. But still June is generally a better, or even if we just look at horse days, and you can download apps and kind of plan out, when's a horse day coming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So any questions so far with this? I have a question. Is he in like a family business?
No. And what do you mean by family business?
Like, is he in like the work that his family did, or does he worked with his family?
No. The company is owned by like the company, the owner's family is involved, but not his family.
Okay. That's interesting. What kind of work does he do?
He does online like advertising, marketing.
Online. Okay. And you want him to go into business for himself?
Well, I want him to do what makes him happy.
Okay.
Because he's not I mean, the money is good, but he's not happy. So, I don't care what he does. I just want him to be happy, basically.
Yeah. If he does that, that will definitely take care of the bullying for him.
Mm-hmm.
Because that will really make the punishment of responsibility manifest in that way.
Mm.
For, because I mean, what it's like when you're have your own business. It's a punishment sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of time, but we
But
love
then
it anyway.
the thing is that it might not be financially good for us, right?
If he does that,
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, just because there's a bullying doesn't mean there's going to be a negative outcome. It just means there's an over assertion, or there could be, it's the way you perceive it, right? So financially, you guys still want to enhance this earth and water, or I mean fire. I wouldn't say that's going to be bad for you guys, because when he takes on earth is always good for him. And that's all about responsibility. Okay. And entrepreneurs are taking on responsibility. I mean, this can be your boss, but it's Chisha for him, which is what's here and here and here and here. It's all throughout his chart. Okay. He is in a pillar that is very much dominated by somebody else being the authority, or like official authority, or like authority handed to him. So that's could be why he's not looking to make his own business, but innately it's all there for him to be more entrepreneurial. And he may see himself that way more so, but his focus just this decade, it's harder for him to do that. But I wouldn't say it's bad for you financially if you guys do that. If anything, for both of you, it's metal is always for you too a good element, and these sense of responsibility is always good for you. If anything, I would say like doing a lot of studying is not great for either of you. Like, don't go back to school.
Oh, okay.
That will make you guys lose. I mean, sometimes at some points in his life that might be okay for him. For you, you're just going to lose money. You're definitely better at being more of a productive person. Or even like having children. Yeah, for you it's not about like putting energy into yourself. It's more about your output and production.
I was going to go back and get my doctorate.
It's just, you know, I mean, I wouldn't say it's terrible. I mean, that would be water for you, but it's not going to, it's just going to cost you money. You if you're going to do it, you got to make sure that, I mean, it wouldn't be, if you're going to do it, you need a lot of wood, because that way it's not going to over control your productivity. You just, but always you should just be building up this fire and earth for you.
Okay. Would going back to school, what's the word? Affect my fertility?
Only if your wood is not rooted. He roots wood for you. And not actually, no, he doesn't. If you have more wood component, it's okay. It's not terrible. You have so little water that I don't think it's going to affect you that much. But see, this is voluntary school, so this is metal for you. That could be another thing that's going to take care of your punishment. Because you're trying to take on school to become a doctor so you can have more responsibility. Like you're trying to become more of an authority figure. That's what this is also. It's about authority, right? So it just depends on why you're doing it and how you're doing it. I wouldn't say it's terrible. It could help kind of manifest this bulishing better for you, so this fire can be freed up and you can just enhance fire elsewhere.
But how would I know that?
It's how you know that is how you put your focus into life. So it's kind of like, all right, law of attraction is always there whether we know it or not, right? Okay, this bulishing has always been there whether you knew it or not. Now I've given you the information of this is what's happening to you in your life or for you, right? Now, how do you want to take control of it? How do you want it to manifest? Okay, because it was not defined so clearly before. It's got so many elements at play. It could have been showing up through fertility. It could have been showing up through your finances. It could have been showing up through the career at any given point, right? So now how do you want to harness this energy? All right. And you say, okay, I have a bulishing. I am going to make this punishment about work, right? It's not really like something you can do. It's more about the intention, right? Like how can you make things manifest with time? Because time is going to make something manifest, but you also have control over your destiny. Okay. Does that make sense? For him, okay, so like I said, there are interactions that you can control and some you can't. You can't take away a bulishing. For him, he has this Samha that he can't, like right now is always manifesting as young earth, but he can bring in elements of yin fire and yang fire to make this change, right? So even, let's say he does change it. Actually, he can do that. For him, the bulishing can change. So because we're just looking at the dog and the goat are punishing, the dog's punishing the goat, right? Well, right now they're manifesting as the earth, which we said is tied to his fertility. Okay. Well, let's say he brings in a fire to change this. Well, now it's not the fertility that's involved in the punishment, it's his finances, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's something like that. It's about his salary. Okay. So if he decides to go to work for himself, like, yeah, maybe the punishment is he doesn't have a steady paycheck anymore. And he's worried about that. Okay. But it's okay. Maybe your finances are fine. So you just, or you know what I mean? It's not to say he's going to be losing money. It's just, it's how he feels. It's about what's going on in how he's feeling about life and in the interactions he's coming across.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to talk about, we already talked about the assertion. I already kind of went into that. So we're going to skip over that. So this month of October, that's starting in a few days, he gets that fire root. So everything changes to fire for him. So that bulishing. So we were talking about whether it's a good time or not. Mm-hmm. This October might actually be a good time for you guys to try. There's even an interaction where everybody gets a little extra fire in October, and we said that's good for you guys. There is one other aspect I forgot to mention. In your hour pillars, you have this fire and he has this metal, which is in a controlling cycle, right? So that's another reason why we want to enhance earth, so that the fire can't control the metal, because nobody likes to feel like they're being controlled. That can be a like negative factor in your guys's relationship. So even when I'm like working with people who are coming in for fertility, it's always like, usually the woman comes, right, to talk to me about their fertility. Mm-hmm. And it's always like, yeah, the man's on board. Yeah, the man's on board. But like, sometimes you need to double check. Like, are you controlling how things are going? Like, does he really feel like he's a part of this, or is he kind of just going along with what you say, right? Is part of the over assertion like you're maybe taking control of the fertility journey and he's just along for the ride? Like, how, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that this is you guys, but you have that propensity to control him in this way. Mm-hmm. So to not have that control and lose that useful element for you guys is to root earth, so that the fire can't control the metal as much. So that's why bringing more earth into your relationship is more beneficial for you guys. Mm-hmm. Okay. So October is actually a pretty good month to try for you guys. The only thing that came up is just because this rat is not very good for him, but there's so much more at play that makes it easier for you too. But again, you can see that even the month of October, this fire is controlling the metal for everybody. So having more earth, bringing in more earth into your environment is going to negate this effect. Okay. So moving on. Later October is better. The last half of October, which I'll just look up the dates right now. 2020. So that's going to be October 23rd to November 7th. Okay, those are the more beneficial times. And of course you have to like sync that up with your ovulation. Right, because it's only a 2-week period. So I don't know if that works out for you or not. Not to say that the other times aren't fine. It's just this is even better.
Okay.
In November, we get a little bit more fire. So you can see that he still has more fire in his constitution, which also is beneficial. You get a little bit of extra wood. He gets a little bit of extra wood in November, which can mean if he is looking to make anything like a new business or project, this is a good time for him. You get a little bit of extra fire, so you're even more fertile during this time, and you get this water. So actually November is a pretty good time for you guys to be trying as well. Again, there's this little bit of a control. Actually, this control is not for everybody. This control is for you, but it's not terrible. I would say that if anything, that's going to manifest as you you might notice you are creating more, but maybe not. You might be treating more patients, but maybe not getting as many new patients. Something like that.
Okay.
So November is pretty good time for you guys to try as well. I would say all month. There is the water, which isn't necessarily great for you guys, but in terms of like sexual health, you both need it. So yeah, and then any metal that comes in won't control his wood. Water's still not rooted for you, so it doesn't really matter. December, I don't recommend for you guys. Because of this rat energy being his Kong Wong, I would just be very cautious. I would just say skip December if you're trying.
So what happens if?
I'm sorry?
What would happen? Like what would happen if it happens in December?
Probably nothing. I just mean like it's the Kong Wong is all about being void or empty or missed opportunity. So, I mean, it's like if you were scheduling an IUI and you wanted it to be in December, I'd be like, don't do it.
Because it probably won't work.
It probably won't work.
Okay. And that's only for December of 2020?
Yeah. Yeah, these are just these 6 months.
Okay.
And if you have like a specific date later you want me to take a look at, I can do that. Okay. January. January brings in a lot of earth for you guys, and it transforms that rat away from water into earth, which you guys should expect. You in particular, I should expect your business to be great in January. I should think that you will make a lot more money. But you might feel a little bit at odds with him during that time. So I would say January is probably a better time for you both to be focusing on work. and less on children.
Okay.
Yeah, and any tensions that arise, you know, it can be a marker. January should give you an idea of how the rest of the year is going to play out, because January is an ox month, but then in February we move to an ox year. So you should get a pretty good feel of how the energy is going to manifest for the rest of the year. But it's still a little different because you have different stems of on top. Basically, the top line is going to be different. So it's not necessarily the easiest, because this, especially for you, this ox just is in conflict and in bully shing. You know, I'm just looking at for 2021 and this time, it is a little bit more challenging. It does get easier. But
you mean for fertility?
For fertility, yeah.
Okay.
But it's not impossible, and I think that too, because we all have free will, we all have a choice about how things manifest, then it's definitely, when you switch that energy in your mind toward work and make it manifest there, and look outside for these elements to be enhanced in a different way, then, and I'll give you some ideas too. I didn't have time to kind of come up with a point protocol, but I can definitely give you one that will be better for enhancing like the fire and the earth. So we kind of talked about that before with like the Batsa and the seasonal point prescriptions. I know you haven't learned that yet. Mm-hmm. So I will send one to you this week that will help you enhance that.
To do on myself.
To do on yourself, and yeah, and one for him too.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But yeah, just as far as timing wise goes. Okay. And then February, again, we changed to the ox year. And we get this tiger month in February at the new year, right? And for you guys, it brings in a little extra wood. There's nothing really exciting happening here in terms of fertility. This metal isn't like really helpful for you guys. If anything, for you, it is a bit helpful in the sense that it roots or it makes metal really strong. So I would imagine that, again, work is going to just like go gangbusters for you in January, February. You might want to watch out for a little bit of losing some money, but but again, for you losing money, you can invest it. That'd be a good time for you to invest in your career or your clinic or whatever. Okay. There's these hidden elements produced in February of earth, water, and fire. That means they're not outwardly known, but they're kind of building. So in that sense, those are all helpful for your guys' fertility. So February is not a terrible time for you guys to try. But I definitely see the focus being more on work, or at least you have a lot more enhancement in that arena. Okay. And then I think I did, okay, this is actually March. I just forgot to change the wording to, I left it as February on here, but it's March. March is a good time for him because March is always a pretty good time for him because that's his Tauhua. So that just makes him a little bit more productive. The March is but this happens every March. Okay, so for him, he probably is a little bit more productive, a little more artistic. He just sees better work outcomes maybe in March. For you, you probably have some more conflict with family or with yourself or with we didn't really talk about this. You have, why I was asking about how you were as a teenager and about school, is you have a self-punishment in the month and year, and it has to do with your responsibility and your own self-discipline. And it was heightened from the time of childhood to about the age of 27, 28. And so that's why I'd asked you about how that manifested in your life, what the outcomes were. It's still a part of you. And I always tell people that, we start with the year in the Chinese culture. It's more of the importance being about society and family before the self, right? But we also think that this is a start. We can look at the timing of our lives in the pillars as well, not just the calendar and not just the decades columns. But this is for women, because we're in cycles of 7, this is from 0 to 13, 14 to 27, 28 to 41, 42 to 55, and then it cycles back. So then this would be 56 to 69, right? And then for men, it would be cycles of 8. So I always say that everything that happens in these 2 pillars are pretty fundamental to, especially this one, because this would be like the inner child work and the adolescent. And this is the time where we really discover who we are, and we grow from that. Even like a lot of people know in Chinese astrology, okay, I'm the year of the rooster, and there's a certain amount of traits that come with that. And that's because this is when you started forming that sense of self. And so you developed a lot of these rooster qualities. Okay. But every March, the rabbit clashes with the rooster for you. So it's not, I wouldn't say like, oh no, look out March 2021, but it's some kind of energy always happens for you around March. And it's probably centered around this sense of identity and maybe this tendency to go back toward punishing yourself. So if you're punishing yourself in the sense of self-discipline, well, how can you make that manifest? Well, you're a business owner. You might take on some project that's going to be really hard. That's how you would want that to manifest. Okay. As far as like fertility wise, there is almost no fire earth being offered during March. The only thing that's good for him is it's his Tao Hua. So that can just make things a little bit more beneficial time for him, but it's definitely more geared toward getting noticed in his work than it is for fertility. So that's the next 6 months. So yeah, October, November are going to be more beneficial times over the next 6 months. And then June, summertime is generally a better time for you guys. Midday is a better time. Enhancing the fire and earth in your bedroom and in your environment. And then through herbs, acupuncture, tonifying those meridians, either through seasonal balance, 5-element balance, Bodsa balance. I don't think you've taken those courses, so I can give you some ideas. For food therapy, you're thinking like foods that are good for the fire element and for the earth. So like sweet foods, bitter foods, right, are better for you. What would maybe not be as good for you would be like salty, sour foods, right? For either of you, like stay away from those. Maybe stay away from fish. Yeah. Do you have any more questions?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Um, did I
So
answer? Yeah.
no, like actually, yeah, I don't think so. It's pretty clear.
Okay. Hopefully you found this helpful.
Yeah, it was fun. Makes me want to go and learn Batsu,
Okay.
but it's confusing.
Yeah, I will say that this was definitely a little bit more of a complicated task for me, just because I'm still pretty new to this, and both of your charts were interesting. So I will keep in touch with you. I'll look into the acupuncture protocols for you and come up with some good ones that are going to help with that.
So the
Yeah.
only thing is with the food, like I
Mm-hmm.
actually, so my doctor, I did a blood test and my doctor actually says that I'm really low in sodium.
Yeah, because you're deficient in the water.
So
So
he wants me to increase my sodium intake, so I shouldn't.
you can, he shouldn't.
He shouldn't.
Yeah, he should stay away from that.
Okay. So what, so for the food, fire, and earth, that's more for me.
Both of you. You
Okay.
guys are actually, the thing about your guys is you guys are actually so healthy. That's why this is like a
Really?
little bit. You guys are so healthy. You guys have such good charts. It's just this. It's just this punishment makes it really um, complicated right now, and I I really am trying to help you use that energy in a different way. But it does interfere.
So it really boils down to us stop concentrating on fertility and basically putting our energy elsewhere.
Definitely in terms of this timing. Yeah. I think you will benefit when at least your relationship will benefit if you guys will put this into your work. Okay. Because, okay, let's put it this way. Right now, you guys already have a controlling cycle in this column of fertility, which already puts a little bit of conflict into your interactions as a couple. Because otherwise, you guys have such a good charts together. Like you guys have such happy charts together, right? Where I see the conflict is when it comes to there's a little bit of conflict in the spouse palace, and there's a little bit of conflict in this hour where it's the like society and children, right? But work, okay? So if there's going to be a problem, how do you want the problem to manifest? Do you want the problem to manifest over kids, or do you want the problem to manifest over work, right? So let's say you start working a little bit more and it's hard on you, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, now you have a punishment about work. It's not about kids. It's not about your fertility. And same with him. So that's what I'm trying to get across is that
Okay. So then how do I make it so that it's balanced so I don't feel punished about work or kids?
Well, it's also redirecting how you feel about punishment. Right?
So it's not really, I mean, the word is punishment, but it's more like concentration.
Yeah, it's more about like um, you're going to feel maybe like you work too hard, or you're going to feel like maybe somebody doesn't appreciate all of your efforts. Okay. Now, here's another thing about Batsa is that this is like a blueprint, and then we get to choose how we feel about it, right? Mm-hmm. So like, it's that idea of contrast. Like, are you going to see something that you don't like, and are you going to sit in that vibration and just be like, this is happening and I don't like it, right? Or are you going to see that there's this issue coming up, and then how am I going to it's like you can transcend your chart a bit. is what I'm trying to say. Okay. But you have to know where you're coming from. Like, what I'm trying to say is you guys have had a problem for 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. The charts explain where the problem is coming from. It also explains that the problem isn't necessarily going away. Okay. That's maybe the bad news, right? The good news is now you know you can take that dynamic and you can shift it. Okay. Like, life isn't going to just take away this dynamic, but you can make this dynamic about other things. So, and this is something you can communicate with him, right? Mm-hmm. Like, maybe we've been struggling with growing our family, but maybe we just need to put more of the struggle and recognize there is going to be a struggle, right? And it's going to be about work. And when you communicate that, then you can both say, okay, like, we both are going to have a struggle individually and as a couple, right? And so where can we put that? Where can we put that, right? Maybe it's going to be like, there are going to be times he feels like, oh, she's spending too much time at clinic, or oh, he's spending too much time at, you know, on this project, or you're telling him too much, like, you need to be doing this for work, or he's telling you too much, right? But now it's about that and not about kids. Does that make sense? So yeah, I know it's not like the easiest thing to wrap your head around. I mean, I personally have these elements in my own chart as well. So, you know, it's like, you know, there's a saying when we were studying Bodsa, is that there were different levels. And when we got to level 2, we started to evaluate charts. But there would be this thing where a chart would come along and the teacher would say, that's a level 3 chart. And then he's like, most people who study Bodsa have a level 3 chart. Because, you know, just like you were saying with what you were struggling with, you put your energy into your practice, right? Like, you've been struggling with fertility. Okay, so now you put a lot of energy into learning how to help people with fertility, right? People who study Bodsa, we have our own chart issues. So we end up studying this, right? And then that can be a form of punishment, of like always looking deeper into ourselves.
I see, yeah.
Right? So you just have to pick how you're going to let this energy come about. It can be really empowering. It can feel really terrible at first. Like, oh my God, my chart is shit, right? Like, my life is going to be so hard. But then you can choose to make it empowering, and say, like, all right, like, I can only grow through struggle and contrast, right? I can only grow through conflict. And you've got that going on. So you have the potential to be really powerful and to make a lot of things manifest. And what is especially good for you guys, and you are especially lucky, is that all of these conflicts and punishments are all beneficial for you. That is a very striking thing about your charts. Everything you want to accomplish is beneficial for you. You guys are really in line in that way. So the hiccup is just that this punishment has existed, but it was manifesting in so many aspects of your life, it had no direction. So now, today, hopefully you understand that punishment exists and you can direct it. Okay. That's where the free will comes in. That's where the choice of what to make with time happens.
Okay.
Yeah,
it sounds good.
Okay.
It's pretty exciting. I like all this stuff.
Awesome. Okay, I am going to stop this recording. And Hello again.
Hi.
Okay, so that's pretty much it.
Yay. Cool.
There's a lot more we could get into with the charts, but I think that pretty much covered a lot of what you were curious about.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you have questions about things we went over, just text me in WhatsApp. I'll make a YouTube video for this and it'll be unlisted. So I'll just share the link with you, but you're the only one that will have access to it.
Okay. Awesome. And your skin looks great.
Oh, thank you. It's I have some makeup on, but I'm
It
working
doesn't
on
look
it.
like it. It looks great. It looks
Okay.
very natural.
Well, thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Lindsay. That was amazing.
Oh, you're welcome. Have a good rest of your weekend.
You too.
All
Talk
right.
to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.